And we're following breaking news tonight at 5. The U.S. tonight confirming that Israel and Hamas have now reached a ceasefire deal.
The news first broke around noon today, and ever since we've been getting updates from the Middle East. Brian Abel shares what the deal means for the war that hasn't stopped in 15 months.
At long last, I can announce a ceasefire and a hostage deal has been reached between Israel and Hamas.
The relentless fighting in Gaza between Israel and Hamas is about to cease temporarily. Following months of negotiations, Hamas and the Israeli government agreeing to a deal that will pause the fighting and see a phased release of hostages seized from Israel during the October 7, 2023 attack. The significant ceasefire, coming at the 466-day mark since that attack on Israel, may be the longest of the war so far. The agreement calls for a 6-week end to the bombing, for Israeli troops and Hamas militants to lower their weapons, and for 33 Israeli hostages to be released during the first phase of the pause. 7 of the remaining hostages are American, 4 of whom have been confirmed dead. Some of those Americans will be released in the initial phase. In exchange for the hostages, hundreds of Palestinian prisoners will be released by Israel, including those convicted of killing Israelis.
This deal was developed and negotiated under my administration, but its terms will be implemented, for the most part, by the next administration. In these past few days, we've been speaking as one team.
President-elect Donald Trump posting on Truth Social, "We have a deal for the hostages in the Middle East. They will be released shortly. Thank you." News of the ceasefire brought hundreds to Tel Aviv's Hostages Square. Sources familiar with the matter saying the ceasefire and hostage release, the first since last November, could begin as early as Sunday. In Washington, Brian Abel reporting.
And we have heard from Hoosiers impacted by this war for nearly a year and a half.
And our Marina Silva got a chance to speak with some of them in just the past few hours ever since the news broke today. So, Marina, what are these Hoosiers saying to you?
Well, they're very happy that there is a ceasefire happening. So since the war on Gaza, we've heard from Hoosiers from all over and seen their voices. We've heard their voices and opinions, from protests on Monument Circle to months-long protests at Dunn Meadows on Indiana University's campus. Now that a ceasefire is set to begin Sunday, Hoosiers on both sides are asking people to still remember those who were killed during the attacks. Both sides say they have been doing work to educate people here in Indiana about what is going on overseas. But now, with a ceasefire set to start on Sunday, Hoosiers are hoping it sticks.
I want them to know that Israel and the Israelis want peace at the end of the day. They want to be able to live side by side with their neighbors. I think that there are still strong segments of the Jewish community that believe a peace can happen between the Palestinians and the Israelis, and it's up to governments on both sides of that conversation to ultimately see that happen.
The war isn't over for Palestinians. Not only are there deaths that will still be counted, there are still people dying from malnutrition, there are still people dying because they live under siege in Gaza, regardless of whether or not Israel's phase of the war is over. And we should also know that America needs to hold the people responsible for this accountable.
We know the ceasefire will have 3 phases. The first one is the release of hundreds of Palestinian prisoners in Israeli custody and the repopulation of certain areas of Gaza. Then the next phase is exchange of remaining living hostages. The third phase is the remains of hostages will be given back to their families. Now we are watching to see what happens here about this ceasefire locally. Now, both sides I talked to today say they're hoping that Israelis and Palestinians live up to their ends of the deal. Now, I'll share more about my conversation with them tonight at 6.
All right, some big international news tonight. Marina, thank you for bringing that home for us.